So we found them just by blogging. Elisa, that all of you met, that is here today, she's our content marketing person. We set out to say, the people that we want to attract, the parent-friendly bloggers, what if we gave them 25 ideas on what to blog about in August? So in August, the 2 days before August, we launched a blog post that we emailed to our 4,000 people, our 4,000 bloggers. We said, here's ideas. And they forwarded them onto their friends, and their friends click back to read it, and there's a pop-up that says, would you like to join? If you're a blogger, click here. So we actually get a lot of bloggers by helping bloggers. That's one of our tips.
I think one of the things you touched on is how to measure or your objectives and your KPIs. And before you can even measure, you have to know what your objectives are. And a lot of people go into campaigns really not having a defined objective, KPIs, or a goal. And so, I've worked with companies where we've run a campaign for all intents and purposes very successful, but then you'll get a response like, I don't really think we reached our objectives, and without even defining them. So first of all, define your objectives very well, and then don't bite off more than you can chew. Depending on your staff and your resources, generally speaking, you never want to do more than 5 different platforms for a campaign because it just gets crazy. So I think that's define your objectives ahead of time, keep it real, don't overdo your stuff. And then as far as analytics, there's a ton of different things out there that you can use to measure, whether it's, we talked about Epoxy last night or Hootsuite, or there's a ton out there. So just define your metrics before you try to even measure it.
Yeah, I would definitely go off of that. And, I think one of the biggest things with running campaigns with multiple posts is organization. It goes a really long ways. And at our firm, we're constantly running campaigns for various clients, and it gets really, really demanding because each client wants to do 3 different campaigns, and then we have 12 clients. And I really like social distribution platforms like Epoxy, which is what we use at the company, because it allows me to basically automate as much of my work. And there are weekends where I'll just say, all right, I'm going to work this weekend and I'm going to plan everything out for the weeks to come, and that just helps me stay organized on top of things and execute what I need to do.
Perfect. So Epoxy, using Google Spreadsheets are 2 good ways to keep organized. Lots of analytics tools out there. Any other suggestions on maybe any on this front?
Alan kind of stole my answer, but I said this in the last panel as well, that I think what we need to do is the good old-fashioned brief is really a tool that we forget about. It's literally that paper document. You make sure you have that, you hand out to every single person at the beginning of a campaign, so everyone's on the same page, you're high-fiving on that. It's like an old-fashioned but very, very important tool that I can't not emphasize enough.
What makes a good creative brief?
Details. Even if you're just taking one post on Instagram or on YouTube, your deliverables oftentimes for a brand can be some type of mention and or URL just in the description of the YouTube post, a hashtag, tagging other things, having a product in there. And if you're doing a multi-post, multi-month with not only different influencers, those things add up, and you're going to have hundreds of actual things that need to be executed. And if you don't schedule that, and you don't have it properly done, it's just opening up disaster because there's no way you can just wing it. And have a checkbox. If you have the resources, have a campaign manager, have a all type of management, and then keep it going with the client and with the brand, so it's a constant communication. And sometimes you have to change on the fly, but if you know what's ahead of time, you can get out in front of it and then have a plan B and a contingency plan.
And if you can have the production people there as well. We oftentimes you set up a brief at the initial kickoff, and maybe you haven't even chosen your production team, but if you can, have them present at the very beginning and make them commit to this stuff. And I don't know how many times I've heard, oh dude, yeah, we'll handle that to post. And you're like, no, it's like got to be captured in camera beforehand, and that's the type of stuff needs to be planned out, details, like you said.
What's a good length for a brief? Should we be sending pages out to these influencers?
We got a brief from a big brand that a lot of us know, and it was 3 or 4 pages long. I thought it was too long, to be honest. I thought it was a little long, because if you're going to have a brief for influencers to work with you, we're all busy, everybody that's here, so it should be, I think, 1 page, personally.
The word is brief.
Yeah. I would say also setting up your analytics tools. So I was using TweetReach for to measure on Twitter and so forth. defining that hashtag and knowing what you're following. I was doing some work for Knott's Berry Farm, and we were preparing for Knott's Scary Farm, but we would follow the engagement up to 3 months ahead of time, so we had to make sure that all of the analytics and all that stuff was solid to capture everything.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that somebody mentioned it over there about setting up your engagement and what you're optimizing for ahead of time. I think this is so critical to running a successful campaign. When you're going to put in all of this effort to coordinate all these posts and influencers, it's so important to make sure that you're aligned. So what can be done as somebody that's coordinating a campaign or running a campaign? What can be done ahead of time to align expectations with the brand, to set up tools to track the posts, to make sure that the influencers know the goals?
When I work on a campaign and when I see campaigns all the time, because I fit into the target audience for a lot of these consumer products that are out right now, the first thing that I kind of notice myself is looking at these ad campaigns that other people are doing and wondering, is this working for me? And not only is it working for me, but there are so many different social platforms out right now. And I think the biggest mistake that I've seen being done for multi-post campaigns is seeing the same type of content on different platforms. I don't think it works. It doesn't work for me, it doesn't sell for me, I don't think it sells for my peers. I would like to see brands, companies, agencies really harness, the different social platforms and treat them differently. If you're gonna post a blog, go to Facebook. If you're gonna use Twitter, why not turn it into a Q&A platform where you have someone actively answering questions?
So we did a project with Healthy Choice recently, and Healthy Choice, we put out all this cool content teaching brands how to think about this stuff. And we did the following thing. First of all, internally, we had to know what the process is. You need to know before a brand ever works with you, if you're an influencer network or an influencer or even a brand, you need to know what are your 20 steps. There's probably 20 steps to everything, just about. So we sit down in-house and go, okay, here we go. We're gonna get super nerdy. And I force the whole team to sit down with us. What's wrong? What did we miss? And then you put dates next to them. And then what happens if there's a delay? So we've come up with a 90-day campaign window where we can get you blogs and authentic people writing about your brand in an authentic way in less than 90 days. Usually it's 60, maybe even less than that, but we promise 90. And then we put that out in a Google spreadsheet, we put dates and all this nerdy stuff. And then once the team has gone through all of that, we shot a video about it. We taught brands. We said, look, if you're gonna hire somebody to do this, these are the steps that we think you should do. And yeah, it's a little bit over the top, but you need to take in mind that all the blogs are gonna want this, and here's the payment dates. And so we actually taught them after a huge brainstorming activity. And once we did that, now we have it set, and we'll tweak it as time goes by. But I think not enough people do that. They go, yeah, we'll just give our product out for free, because it's a brand that's moving in this direction, and they're not thinking about, what if they hate your product? What if they didn't get it? What if you can't call them last minute and go, why didn't I get our blog? So there's a lot of planning and a lot of communication. I'd like to talk about a scrappy tool that everybody has in here. Could I do that real quick? So you have amazing technology, you have developers and cool stuff, and an incredible platform. We didn't. We decided that we're going to take a different stance on this, and so I shot a little video for Healthy Choice, and I said, hey, Healthy Choice, here is your scrappy dashboard that we're giving you. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you can take a Google spreadsheet, which you can update, work on, it's live, other people can control. And there's a little tiny, if you hit file and you hit publish to a web page, you can publish just that one tab, and it will update every moment. And what you can do is you can send this long link to a client, and they can't control it. They can just see that one tab, and they see this big grid, this dashboard. And so we were able to put all these blogs that we worked on with all these metrics in this colorful document. When they're due, when they're posting, we need approval, and here's their following, and here's their tweets, and click here to go this and approve it. And the brand, every morning, I got this from the brand. I said, hey, I shot that little scrappy dashboard video on how to use it. And I taught you how to save it to your dashboard if you want to, right? And they said, oh yeah, we check that every morning. When we come into the office, we all look at it to see where we're at on the campaign. They actually ended up loving this super free, stupid little dashboard that we created, and now we're creating for every brand. We do it on all kinds of stuff. We call it our scrappy dashboard because it sets us apart, where it's all about us getting on the phone and emailing and doing hard work, and that's really what this all is. It's hard work. we have to woo over these, as a middleman, we have to woo over the bloggers, we have to woo over the brand and keep them updated on the data and make sure we're on time. So that scrappy dashboard, you just hit File, Publish to Web Page, and make sure you only publish that tab, and then try it out in incognito. Incognito is your friend. Always test things in incognito. And you can view it, and it takes 5 minutes to update. You make a bunch of changes, you tell the brand, okay, wait, and they update it, oh, there's all the changes, well, all your stats are in there. It's unbelievable. But they looked at it every day, and it was free.
Wow. So that's a really good tool. Google Drive, obviously, really powerful.
Yeah.
Making a dashboard, you don't need a developer to keep your clients up to date.
Yeah.
Are there any other tools you guys recommend other than Google Drive for managing campaign or reporting to clients?
I think if you have multiple people working on a campaign at once, like services like Asana or 17 Hats is a great way to do internal management. I love doing that because I have interns in and out of my office all the time, and it takes me probably about 2 weeks to get them on board and get comfortable with Asana, but once that gets going, I don't even have to constantly email them or talk to them in the office. They know their tasks are automatically there. I can see an update in terms of what my co-founder is doing, what my marketing associate's doing, what my intern's working on, how the progress is on that, and that's like a great way to keep your office space really organized too, because if your office is a mess, your campaign's gonna be a disaster, so.
Yeah, you guys using Google Analytics at all to track the what does success look like on some of these? I'm sorry to be moderator, but I'm so curious. Like, we just finished a campaign and the client is ravingly happy, but we didn't make any sales for them. Like, we did some really cool stuff, and the quality was high. Jesse and I were talking about it out there. I was like, the client is through the roof because it was all positive and nice, and we got more blogs than they wanted. But we didn't make any sales, right? They didn't care about sales, which is cool in the next iterative, and we'll probably do some stuff where it's tracking. But what are you guys doing on Google Analytics, or can you track using an affiliate ID? What are you doing?
So at UC Irvine Health, we launched our blog, our corporate blog, about 2 years ago. So it's pretty young. So we're still doing a lot of testing. So we're using Outbrain. We're testing with Outbrain native ads. We are using Google Analytics to see what stories are resonating with people, because we're trying to attract new patients. So that's very important. Did that breast cancer article do well, or did that what lunches to pack for the mothers, did that work pretty well? So we're testing, we're using Google Analytics, we're using Facebook Insights. So we're kind of using the basic free, because again, it's also tight on budget.
Yeah, I mean, is anybody tying, once again, sorry to ask a question, but I think Jesse and I are always wondering, because Jesse's like the Ferrari in the room, the big, if you have 4 million followers, Jesse's your BFF because he'll teach you how to monetize and hook things up. And if you have somebody that's a BFF, that's like your brother has 4 million followers, they should talk to Jesse. But if they're a parent and they like organic products and they only have 10,000 followers, they would talk to us because they'd have a super niche thing, right? So I'm the Ford and he's the Ferrari, but we're always still trying to figure out how do you monetize products, whether you're Ford or Ferrari, right? What does Flipboard do?
So for Flipboard, well, for us, we actually end up kind of being that for bloggers. If you want to talk about like the scrappy, Flipboard is a place where a blogger can go to tap an audience they're likely not tapping right now. Of course, brands can as well. So for us, we kind of hang our hat on the fact that we have this high quality, very influential, very active, very affluent audience. And so when you have your campaign out and running, if you're looking for that extra traction or that really niche audience who loves that particular topic or brand or product, like we're kind of almost a forgotten platform in a way because we are a utility and we are a newsfeed for a lot of people. It's also a social network with an audience that's active and ready to pounce into the stuff that they love. So we work really closely with bloggers to extend their normal audience reach and get into an in-app environment where they have high quality control and they're paired next to high quality content from the world's best publishers. And we offer our own analytics tools that are free to anyone who signs up on our platform. So I can, for everything that I curate and publish to Flipboard, see pretty in-depth free analytics for everything within our ecosystem. Which is pretty cool.
So I can speak to this a little bit on some really large campaigns. Josh, I love your question about what matters for these customers. And I know a lot of you guys are agencies, and a lot of you guys are probably running campaigns for clients. And the one single metric that we reported to clients that got them to spend more was earned media value. And this ties into your question about the platforms. These guys have platforms where they're looking to look at how all of their campaigns perform side by side. And so for influencer campaigns and blog campaigns, we do impressions times CPM on a paid network. So if a YouTube view is 10 cents for a pre-roll ad, and we got 100,000 YouTube views, that's 10,000 in earned media value. And then we build tools that they can tie it into these dashboards. You don't have to do that. You can use Google Drive. And providing them this earned media value metric made them so comfortable that their campaign was getting an ROI because it's apples to apples comparison on how did these posts, how many impressions did these posts get me, how much would I normally pay to buy these impressions, and therefore you can kind of just show them that they got an ROI, assuming you actually did deliver results. I have a question.
Yeah, just to speak to your point, Eisenberg did an incredible report called the Earned Media Value Report, where basically they broke down all the, it's free, you can get it on their website, and it's all the major platforms, and literally based on ostensibly neutral research, because they're a massive agency, right? So, but they're saying that they did something like 10,000 campaigns and 10,000 media buys and all this different stuff that they analyzed anonymously into breaking down the earned media value for all the major platforms and all the major KPIs that you could go for on a platform into dollars and cents.
Wow.
It is so useful. Like 12 cents for a view on Facebook, which is nuts, right? That's like $100 CPM. But still, it's a good place to start when you're talking to a brand and they're like, well, we'll pay you $5,000 for 1 million views. And you're like, yeah, right. But you can start, it's starting to become more like television. Like the numbers are going up, which is the good news for everybody here.
So that's interesting, Jesse, that you guys have that simple formula and that's the metric that you give them that they love.
Yep.
That's really great. Is anybody doing anything, sorry to ask this, but is anybody doing anything that has to do with sales, like real dollars or anything? I hate to push the conversation forward. Anybody have any projects? Yes, over here, we haven't heard from you yet. Just raise your hand. No?
Yeah, no, I have a couple of brands that we have campaigns going, which the end game is, what they're actually measuring is conversion to sales, and it can actually be really challenging. I think everyone here sort of struggles with it because it does take time to be able to build momentum when it comes to a campaign, a social media campaign. It does take time, and very often the challenge with brands is they want to see an immediate conversion to sales, and that just doesn't happen. Like there's a slow build in terms of the momentum, so there really is an education from a brand perspective in getting a lot of people on the brand side to really understand that you're not going to just automatically launch your campaign and a week later have an ROI and have all of these sales, and that it does take time to start to build the audience and the conversation.
The managing expectations is key and for everything, and not just for individual videos, for individual platform posts, whatever. They have to understand it, and even their entire marketing department has to understand, because a lot of times I'll be working with the director of marketing who gets it, but their CMO doesn't get it.
Right, exactly.
They don't understand that you don't get 1 million views, and it has like an exact formula on how many things you're going to sell. And when you're starting a conversation with social media, any type of branding, if your best scenario, it's an 18-month play. More likely 3 years to really get embedded into a demographic and get out there. And so and that's what I was going to say before, whether I'm working on an integration within a video, if I'm working for Nestle Water and I have an influencer, it's a very good idea to let them know how is that going to be worked in. Is it going to be sitting on a desk while I'm talking to you? Am I going to talk about it? Am I going to comment on it? And all those things, if that's every one of those little details is not managed on top of everything else, then you're already set up for disaster if they think I'm going to talk about how delicious the water is for 5 minutes, when I just want to have it sitting next to me. So, and that's, I mean, I can't say that enough. Your KPIs, your objectives, what is the integration, who's going to do it, make sure there's a lot of times people don't even talk to the influencer. The guy walks in the room right before he does his video, and he's got a couple things, and if they're not briefed properly on how to do it, or what to do it, or how to wear it, or you're in the beauty and makeup, is the lipstick going to sit there? Am I going to use it? Am I going to try to coordinate it with my outfit? All those things, put it in writing, put it in bullet points, and it will save your life and save your relationship and help you grow that business.
Jesse, well, give us some case studies. You do some really big projects, and you're being really quiet. Talk to us about some projects that you've done, multi-post campaign design.
Yeah, so probably the biggest we did was last year. It was for a mobile app called FanDuel. It was a conversion-centered campaign. They only paid on conversions. So for you guys marketers in here, that's like, you don't want to hear that. Run a campaign on conversions, that'd be awful. So it turns out it was our highest campaign. We made $600,000 on the campaign. It was driven by one account manager. So how do we do that? We incentivized the influencers that they had to hit certain metrics, or they didn't get paid. So they were only, and not all of them were paid on conversions, because the influencers never go for that. But we did a formula, a very simple formula. Okay, this many views typically converts into this conversion rate, typically converts into this many iOS installs. Model that out, said you hit this many views to get paid this many views to get paid this, so on and so forth. Turns out you can run a 40% margin campaign on conversion only if you set your benchmarks right. That's one example. All the way to the end of the spectrum, $100,000 media buy for Walmart. We asked them, okay, this is a media buy, right? And ahead of time, we pre-negotiated a follow-up campaign that if we hit a certain CPM and that audience was right, then they would get a follow-up campaign. Pre-negotiated, and actually in contract. There's like no, like, we'll see if we hit this. So that obviously. We took a very low margin on the first one to make sure that, like 5%, to make sure that we got a bigger follow-up. So I think regardless, I think the point here is if you're running campaigns as an agency, it's so critical. A couple of you guys mentioned it. It's so critical to set up the metrics ahead of time and make sure that you're going to make a margin on the campaign. And I think a lot of people are just going to cross their fingers and hope the VP of marketing gets it. And I think you can really plan against that. You don't have to be susceptible to that variance.
Good examples.
Yeah, so those two.
You can pre-negotiate too. We had a campaign where, it's the end of the year, brands are out of money, but there's still time. So we told them, well, look, we'll do the campaign now, but you have to add it next year to next year's budget. We'll wait. And they said yes.
Perfect. So let's hear from you guys. What are your guys' problems, pain points? We've got an awesome crew of people here that can answer them. Questions about running a campaign, tracking a campaign.
I think back to what you just said, Jason, we said, we gave those 3 metrics and the customer got it. So if you talk about earn, the other bullet is pay, and the low is own. And people know pay, earn is on the way up. What people are maybe missing, and maybe it's the challenge, is educating back to what a pipeline, everybody needs to build a pipeline. There's 3 sources. They understand one, but the others can pay over time. It'll be more profitable if you had 60% after 18 months, but you start, the sequencing matters, right?
Yes.
So you can't even have that conversation if there's no marketing model conversation without using model, but at least let's view the world the same way, and here's how they interplay. So the challenge is getting a person to come back from tactical to maybe think OGSM or Ghost or just, agreeing on metrics. But seeing the view beyond the channel, because here we seem to be social focused.
Yep.
But if you put the layer on top, it's one channel versus another. And how can I view it consistently across and make the right decision?
Yeah, so I think a couple of you guys, you mentioned that these campaigns are like 18-month campaigns at a minimum. So let's hear from you guys. What are some ways you guys position influencer and social campaigns to other channels and capture the value over time?
We, at Flipboard, we always include a Millward Brown brand index study with all of our campaigns so that you take a baseline at the beginning and you can show, because the ROI is so hard to prove, but if you can just show your brand impact over time, that's usually translated in the mind of the marketer or the CEO, that there is an impact. So brand impact studies are kind of expensive, but it's part of, we have learned that we need to bake it into our media buys.
I've got a huge failure. So one of my friends owns a client, he's become a friend. He owns a really cool, no longer client. He owns a really neat electronics company, and they do $2 million a year on their e-commerce website. And he said, "What's next?" And they do $40 million a year in their business, and they sell these really cool IoT products and stuff. They're really old school. And we tried to get them to start turning their engineers into influencers, shooting videos. Hey, this is how we set up this Wi-Fi pole. They do a couple things really well, better than anybody else. And they're the smallest compared to the gigantic elephants. And I said, wow, there's so much room. Let's turn your people into content marketers. And they're really cool. We went in there with cameras, and as his friend, I just said, let's just do something fun. And let me throw a bunch of cameras at you, turn them on, and we'll teach you some Google Hangout tricks. And it absolutely failed. Because, and the CEO's a neat guy, and he's my friend, but he didn't get it, and it takes years for these people to start understanding. If we just do this over the course of 3 years and become enthusiastic about it, going back to something that's really cool, and then we can drip down into the engineers, start making videos about, hey, we hacked something together, and I know you guys want to buy this brand new Raspberry Pi device that you can do cool crap on. Well, we've got the Raspberry Pi V2 that's neat with this. They should be creating videos and teaching, and it fell flat on its face because some outsider like me cannot come in with enthusiasm and hold it up for a little while and leave. The thing that we found, and the only reason why some of these bigger, this one that we just did with all these blogs, is they truly wanted it, and they knew they wanted it. They knew they said, don't worry, we have a feeling it's going to work. And once they know, then it's a good time to. Your KPIs, everything's gonna go great, but if you're fighting up an uphill battle, even though they're my friends and stuff and they still liked what we did, it just did not go well. I see it as a failure, and I tell them, I go, look, you aren't setting a precedent, so none of your engineers are doing this, teaching cool crap. The little startup is doing really well down the street, and they are blowing you guys out of the water selling Raspberry Pis and stuff. And so I learned quickly, if they don't genuinely want it, you can't sell it to the CEO, the CMO, and all these big people. Even if the KPIs look average, because it definitely takes 2 years maybe, or something like that.
And I think also we're talking about still the basic tenets that go back way before digital, marketing and advertising. It's great creative and engagement. So that engineer guy on the Rapid stuff may not have that specific that a good host or a good blogger has, or someone who's made their life, built an audience. And so that's something that's, it's like if you had a script to do stand-up, I had a script to do stand-up, and you're a comedian, I'm not going to deliver it the way you do it. And finding partnerships with already established influencers and brands that have the audience and then know how to do it, because a lot of times, these ideas is kind of like singing in the shower. You think you sound great, but you don't. And there's professionals that can really bring this stuff to life. And I would encourage those of you who are with brands or representing brands to seek out that relationship to the influencer or the marketer who has as much at stake as you do, because they're going to put that time and effort into the integration or into your brand to make it work and to make it resonate with their audience, because there's no one that speaks to the audience like that influencer. I mean, we own Surfer and Surfing. People would say, well, why would you have both? There's a different message for that. We have Motor Trend and Automobile. They talk a different tone. We have Mopar Muscle. That is not the same tone as Motor Trend. So stuff like that. It's interesting.
Can I switch gears for a second? Is that
Perfect, yeah.
awesome? So one thing I was excited to talk about in this panel was just some of the things that we're finding in terms of where and when this content that we're all talking about actually gets consumed. And so we've been following just kind of our content consumption on our platform very, very closely, and there's been a massive shift in the last 12 months. And that shift is, we're a mobile-first app. I mean, when Blueboard launched, it was an iPad app, and then we saw really quickly that mobile, with the change in the design of the phones being bigger and more powerful, that our tablet usage is and it's insane how many people are consuming copious amounts of content on a mobile device. That thing that used to be just that small second screen experiences. The TV is kind of the second screen for me. I don't know about you guys, but that's like background noise these days. And I'm like, there's this thing that's happening with mobile devices right now. So all this content we're creating, I think when we think of mobile optimized content, you used to be able to say, okay, it's too bite size, it needs to be snackable. That's just not the case anymore. People are spending tons of time on mobile, and they're reading long-form articles, they're watching long-form videos. So there has been a shift in the last 12 months just with the style of content that we can have over the course of a campaign. It doesn't have to be bite-sized and snackable anymore. It can be in-depth, it can be long-form, it can be serious, it can be powerful and motivating, and people will consume it, and they will consume it on a screen that's like that big. So there is a shift that's occurring, something that we've seen as a platform that we're optimizing around. I wanted to share that insight with you guys too.
Do you feel that responsive design has been the big player in that move?
Actually, it's in-app content that is really skyrocketing. So all the metrics are in, and that it's like people are spending way more time in-app than they are on the mobile, even responsibly designed mobile web. So think of that again about what platforms you want to partner with. Again, I liked your thing about no more than maybe 5. Yeah, definitely think about what platforms you want to optimize for, and then make sure those platforms are on the brief. Make sure that your content that's being created is optimized for those platforms. And that, for one of the big things that I've been working on for Flipboard lately, is we just launched vertical video. So vertical video, having your phone in a vertical format works really well for us. It looks amazing, and so it's like, okay, we're launching vertical video. Go out and find vertical video. People are going to be creating it, right? It's a thing. And I've been shocked just how few companies are even they're just like, wait, I thought Square was a thing. Yeah, that's not that big anymore, but vertical. And so it's been really interesting for me to, from a formatting point of view, in terms of letting brands know that it's okay to go long form, letting brands know that they need to optimize for in-app consumption. A lot of these articles, like Motor Trend, tons of Motor Trend articles are being consumed on Flipboard, and that there's content that looks best in this format that people are spending tons of time reading, so we need to optimize for that time and make it as native of an experience as possible for that channel.
I think with that being said, content is king. I can't stress that enough. I think creative, original, and this is ultimately the authentic marketing conference. I think authenticity, transparency goes a long way. And when we're talking about multi-post campaigns, there needs to be a continuity, and that continuity needs to be in sync with your brand too, despite whatever your product or your service is. I think that brand integrity should absolutely be transparent. And at the end of the day, you're there because you're there to tell a story, right? So I think it's really important to have great content. Content is king.
Yeah, I think that you can't stress that enough. The best content performs the best. I don't know if you guys read the last panel, but it's important to put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. If you wouldn't click on an ad, the people probably aren't going to click on the ad. If you wouldn't consume a piece of content, it's unlikely that people will consume it, or at least they won't enjoy it. So let's continue on this thread and then maybe a couple more questions. But what can we do as campaign managers, as marketers, to help make better content?
I think it's staying up to trends, to knowing what's happening. We were talking about mobile. Of course, we've known mobile for a couple of years. It's really taken on. But how you deliver that content, too, is really key. The shiny star of Snapchat, seeing how if it fits with your brand, how you can use that to your advantage. But then you go along with, you can't track the analytics part of it. So it's taking all of that into consideration, but really being ahead of the game, hiring staff that really knows, that's in the industry, in the mix, working with bloggers. They know what to look for and maybe kind of gauge what's ahead, what's coming up ahead.
So I would say that I'm not a very funny person. I'm fun, but I'm not very funny. So I would never come up with comedy stuff or anything. That's just not my niche. But what we have found is if you can find out what you're freakishly good at, we talked about that this morning with the case study that some of you are here with. If you find out what your customers are constantly complimenting you on, hey, you're doing it, wow, thank you so much, you're good at that. content starting there, probably not a bad idea, right? Starting there and having a lot of fun with it and doing something there is typically what we try and do. And we're really good at failing, and so we fail a lot less there.
That's great.
I think, for us, again, going back to the brief, we always want an insight. You gotta have an insight, an audience insight, something that is just, what is the one thing that stands out across the crowd? One of our big clients is Rolex, and we get to work with them, and they don't do anything social. They have never worked with any sort of social media platform or anything. What they did do for years and years and years is they published a big magazine, and they have a physical printed magazine that they publish. And there's amazing stories in this thing, and so we were lucky enough to work with them to be the first digital platform for ever work with. And it was like baby steps, just say, hey, you do this amazing magazine, let's show it in a digital fashion. We can match the layout and the beauty of it. Once we did that, it was like, oh, okay. Now, what type of ways can we authentically, honestly, integrate you into our system? And so now it's you start talking about, and that has opened them up to a lot of things. Adding, like we're talking to them right now about being able to share the amount of time spent in really great articles as a sponsorship by Rolex, because that's what they're all about. So it's like, what is the insight in that the authentic hook for that company with the audience they're talking to?
I think that's a great answer. Go ahead.
Contextual relevance is huge. Providing that target audience, whatever you're saying, provide them some value or have it be some type of entertainment. I'm pretty sure no one goes on Facebook or Instagram like, oh, I'm gonna see some great ads. Can't wait. I'm gonna probably spend 2 or 3 hours a day and I'm gonna get some great ads. Most of our efforts are disruptive. But if you can provide some type of entertainment, so for instance, we'll integrate a product, a tire, on a truck that's snowboarders going on a road trip. So the tire's there, the truck's branded, but we're giving them content that they want to see. It's not a tire commercial, but it's a way to give them something that they want to hear about. You're in the garden, right? In the garden plot. So if I'm maybe the Weather Channel and I want to advertise on your site, maybe it's just not a random ad, but some type of tip that's going to provide value to my passion. Talk to me through my passions. Show me that you've invested time to know what I care about and craft that message. Because no one wants to be disrupted. No one wants to be advertising is like that, this girl's night out, and the ad is like that drunk guy that's trying to talk to all the girls, and they just want to have a conversation. And they're like, no, that guy's not bringing them any value.
It's a great example.
But if you're the waiter and you're trying to help them pick the wine on the wine list, you're still selling, but you're bringing them the value. You're doing it in an appropriate way. And if you think about advertising that way, don't disrupt, don't be annoying, give them value, and have them be part, develop a relationship. And we talked about it real quickly on the other panel. It's not a quarterly objective. You can't have a CMO or something like, oh yes, I have this great campaign, and all of a sudden we want to reach people in the action sports industry. So we're going to run for 3 months, and then for the next 2 years, everyone's that likes action sports is going to buy this computer. It's ridiculous. So those are some kind of things that I've come across in my path.
One example comes to mind when you were talking about relevance and creativity and how to integrate those two. Kento recently put out a commercial that was directed by Spike Jones, and I think it's called New World, but it was a totally different approach because, a lot of perfume commercials do this, but they took a total approach as a music video. And it's about, it's not a 30-second spot, it's not a 90-second spot, it's, a couple minutes, it's like 2 to 3 minutes long. But the second it went up on YouTube, it blew up. And it didn't just blow up in the world of couture, or like fashion, or high-end fashion, or whatnot. It was film critics, it was students, it was people that just stumbled upon it on YouTube. And it was it was really refreshing to kind of see something like that going on. And on top of that, not only is it blowing up on Google News, but it's being called possibly the best perfume ad of all time. But it's pretty much a music video. So in terms of creativity, there you go, right?
Cool. So what was that Super Bowl ad? The little doggy, baby, something, monkey?
Oh,
the point was, it made everyone laugh, and that's why it went viral. It gave them some type of entertainment and spend the time. I would, if I had a creative agency, I would say, why are only good ads in Super Bowl? I want that quality of ads. Oh, of course you have to have a budget, but the same effort you put into that, put into all my creative.
You came up with a great idea. To get your inspiration, to advertise your product when you're talking with influencers, go to a Super Bowl ad YouTube playlist and just get your inspiration from those. That's the $1 million minds creating all these 30-second and 15-second ads. That's actually kind of a fun key takeaway from today. Go and get inspired by those, and then you're thinking like the consumer.
I love that. So we've got time for one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. Anybody in the audience? Go ahead.
We've been doing a lot more with novel ad units that are platform native. So Facebook Canvas is a great example. I know Flipboard has their own versions of this, and it sounds like vertical videos on the way. Any experiences or sort of case studies from the group here on use of novel ad units or new ad units that are coming out that are platform native for mobile devices?
Would you consider Outstream like a platform native, or in-edit video type of scenario? I mean, we experience anything that's contextually relevant. We do all the, like 2 years ago, the native sponsored content where you embed like a seated headline and you have it in it. We work with Teads, which is Outstream, and I looked at it for our last quarter. Our average complete views, 30% complete views of all that ran on a certain site. It's over the top. Once again, if it's relevant, I would do a lot with the gaming industry. So if there's a game about snowboarding and skiing, and you put it on Powder Magazine website, it's going to work. It's probably not going to work that great on Omar Muscle. So.
I love that example. All right, guys. So I'm going to give everyone here one more chance to just introduce themselves, name what you're an expert in, and what anybody can come and talk to you about, and then that'll wrap up this panel. So I didn't do myself before, but I run an analytics platform for large-scale influencer campaigns from some guys like Walmart, Fox, NBC. And just one more time, everybody name what you're an expert in.
Cool. Kyle. I'm at Flipboard, and I love advertising. I think advertising can be awesome.
Tanya Salcido, social and digital marketing.
Josh, you know who I am. If you loved today and got a tip, I want you to go to the little video booth that's outside. We've got wine starting in a few minutes, and we've got cookies out there, so you can have a great time.
Alan with 10 Enthusiast Network, I appreciate all your time. I'm like with Flipboard, Kyle. I'm an advertising marketing geek. I live it, I love it. I late at night thinking of campaigns. So that's what I've always done. I went to school for it. So any platform you want to talk about, any campaign you want to talk about, it'd be my pleasure.
Sarah, and anything social media or biz dev related, come see me.
All right, guys. So these guys will all be around. I think there's food and wine and drinks outside. So everybody, hope you enjoyed the panel. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.